the agency I was with at the time. He just blew me away. He had some great books out. You know, the Sun Tzu book with leadership and the emperor. Oh yeah, please turn off your cell phone. I did not stage that.
You timed that perfectly.
I
Timed it perfectly.
I normally do turn it.
Don speaks all over the country. He's a profound author, great speaker, just a great guy. I'm so excited to have him here. You know, many of you people saw my LinkedIn video and saw Wendy Oliver's LinkedIn video or Facebook video about Don, and we're blessed to have him in Baltimore speaking in our events. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Don Schmenka.
Oh, that was fun. I love meeting you guys. You're such a welcoming of a group. It was great. Thanks for having me here. Because I was in town, and he said, "Come on and do this thing." And I'm like, "Well, he says, "No, there's food and great people and drinks." I'm like, "Okay."
It's all of us here.
He's 10 minutes away. It's 10 minutes from your house. I'm like, "Oh, good. Okay, we'll do that." So anyway, that's why I'm here. So, but I love speaking to groups like you, because a lot of my work around the country and around the world is around business and leadership development, but and growing companies faster, entrepreneurial companies especially. I'm not supposed to be doing this though, because my background is in planetary physics. So you're like, why did you get here? So, well, what happened is I started studying the closest planet to us. That was my main focus. And you know which one that is, right? It's the one we're standing on. This is the So while I was studying this planet, I was lazy. I was already here. You don't need any satellites. Just look around. I noticed humans, and they became they became more fascinating because they were so nonlinear. And I started. It became my favorite species. I even have some friends here, humans. And Kiefer tells me some of you have humans in your companies. Is that true?
That's true.
What were you thinking? That's like the hardest mammal to control. What were you thinking? So anyway, I started human studies. That's what brought me down to Hopkins, because I left MIT, planetary physics, went to Hopkins, and I started teaching there, and I was looking at human grouping behaviors, which is, of course, known as mercantilism when you look at anthropological studies of civilizations. And I thought, what a great idea to look at how humans group together. And so that's how I got into business studies. I came in from the opposite direction, you know. So what he asked me to do is to try to put together, and this is a speech that I give around the country, to look at how leadership can be used or advanced by using science. Mainly about how we evolved as a species, why we evolved that way, and how to use it to grow our businesses using these pesky little human mammals. Now, as we're doing this, so we're filming. This is great because we're going to try to help you guys get some video for your organization. And my fiancée Jean will be there. So she's been a little nervous about being too distracted. But thank you, honey. I'm going to hear about it later because I roped her in at the last minute. But so I'd like to start off though with you, and I'd like to start with what you're dealing with, because if we could spend the hour looking at that, this could be a useful evening. So what keeps you up at night? Think about that. Here you are, you're trying to run businesses, you're trying to grow organizations, enhance their performance, but sometimes it's not all fun and games. And sometimes you're like lying awake thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do tomorrow about this problem? So let's take a look at some of those, and then we can use this talk to link back. And we have a nice little board here. So let's talk about this. What are some of the issues that you run into, that you like to figure out, how can I fix this? What drives you crazy? Yes?
Customer complaints.
Okay, customer complaints. Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's take a look at others. What else?
Personnel.
Personnel. And that's the people stuff, isn't it? And what are some of the things in personnel issues? What are some of the human issues that come up?
Differences in the generations in the workforce.
The generations, dealing with that, yes. What else?
Work ethic.
Terminations.
Sorry?
Terminations.
Oh, terminations, yes.
Availability.
Uh-huh, coordinate, then you got availability issues. Okay.
Keeping up with technology.
Oh, yes. Keeping up with tech.
Succession.
Succession, yep, good.
Personalities. Might
Personality.
be generations coming too.
Social styles.
What's that, social
Social styles.
styles? Yeah, social styles, right. Okay.
Time management.
Time management, good.
Cash flow,
What's the other one?
cash flow.
Oh, cash flow.
Bladder.
What?
Bladder.
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 Please expand on that.
You gotta keep waking up at night to go to the bathroom.
That's the-
Across all generations.
That's the seminar in the other building. Yeah, this is not the urology.
Schedules.
What's that? What's
Schedules.
Schedules. What about schedules?
Staffing.
Time schedules.
Oh, okay. So time scheduling and staffing, yep. Time scheduling, staffing. Good.
Government regs.
Covering.
Government regs.
Oh, government, yes. Government regs, oh, yes. Talk about that in a second. Good, good. All right.
Family pressures.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah. Now, is this family in the business or family at home?
Yes.
Of course, of course. This is great. So, a lot of issues here, right? I mean, when you deal with leaders, and Paul and I, we go back, what, 30 years? I forget how long we've been running CEO groups and, what's that?
When Lincoln was president.
Exactly, exactly, and we just missed the play. But the thing is, in the process of working with leaders, we see these patterns, and a lot of this is what can actually get in the way. All the complaints. Now, we're not going to talk about any of this today, but I just wanted to know what you were worried. But there is something to think about, and you're not alone. That's the first thing. I mean, this is something you deal with every day. But what we found out in our research is you're not really alone. By the way, this is not a vape device. Yes, thank you for you pointing that out. Pointer. So you're not alone. When we're looking at the research on what's challenging entrepreneurs and smaller companies to grow faster, it was a lot of these things here that you were worried about, and a lot of it expresses itself in some of these issues. You know, the complexities of life, the change. You got the millennials there. These things tend to make those issues come alive, and the problem is how do we deal with that? But it gets even worse, because a lot of the fears and doubts of business owners and leaders today are some of these things that even magnify those issues. You know, disruptive technologies as an example. What could happen tomorrow that could put my whole industry out of business? You know, how do I deal with this customer thing, customer complaints? Well, what happens when they're placing more value on their experience of you than what you're actually delivering? That's a shift. Of course, the talent thing, you mentioned that, so you see that there. Execution, we find what's interesting is that a lot of times that the execution piece isn't that a neat little pointer?
Yeah.
I like that. We have all these plans and ideas, but we don't have execution. And so sometimes it's not the ideas, but the execution that we're worried about. And so my journey started when you guys asked me to come up with something, because I didn't really know this. I was just a geek, but you know, how do you fix these problems? Why haven't we doubled our size? We're trying all these things. Is it going to be enough tomorrow? And why me though? Why me? And it was, well, because I'm majorly geek. I mean, this is my background. You know, but what was happening is in my studies, I started getting really fascinated with human grouping behaviors. So I met some CEOs, and they were like, you know what? This is a little bit different. Let's see if we can figure out what to do next. And that's why the challenge then was presented. Could you define and discover something primal, something that's genetic, something that's in our biology that would allow us to achieve these things? to grow our companies faster, to deal with the stresses of these issues and the people and all of that. So I thought, oh, let's do this. I made a couple mistakes. Let me go through the mistakes. Now, normally when we go into new areas of science, we try to build on what's already known. So we go and research the papers and the articles, and we try to read and understand what's going on. So I thought, well, let's go to the best-selling management books and see what's going on there. Problem is, we went to New York and discovered 35,000 books are published every year to tell you how to address these issues. So we figured, you know what? Those books must be content-free because these issues still exist, right? So we thought, okay, we can't go there. So let's do something else. Let's assume that management theory works, because why is it popular? If it wouldn't be popular if it wasn't working. So we went to study the success rates of the management theories that were published, and we found a 79% failure rate. You can look at yourself. A lot of companies coming out exposing this. The halo effect. Anybody read the halo effect with Phil? Ward, he's over in Switzerland now. He did the most successfully significant statistical study of the impact of management theory in your organization. He determined that you can improve the performance of your company by as much as 5%. But this is the guy who really got me started, Mike Beard. You can download this article if you want off the HBR website. I met him at the conference board when he was launching, he was the launch keynote speaker at their international event up in New York. He gets up on stage, presents the release of this paper. You know, he tells 3,000, the top thought leaders, the top management consulting experts in the world, in this room. I'm in the back trying to learn everything I can from these guys, because you had spent $100 billion on them that year. I figured if I spent $100 billion on this group of people, I'm going to listen to everything they have to say. He says to them, we've studied all of your management theories. We cannot trace a bottom line impact. That was like, what? Right? So guess what the audience did next?
Couple left.
Nothing. They did absolutely, there was no reaction, there was no questions from the floor, nobody challenged his data, and I'm thinking, this was a total waste of time. So at this point, I'm a little stuck, but I thought, okay, let's tell you what, something must be working, because now I'm not getting a lot of good news. So let's go to a place where you have to prove yourself, where maybe there's something working there. So we decided to look at the issue of mergers and acquisitions, because that's where you gotta pull it all together. You're pulling companies together, you better know what you're doing. And all of a sudden, we went and looked at all of the publications and their findings on the success rates. And you can see there what they say. Some of you can remember a lot of the more popular ones in the press. So, I'm like, wait a minute, guys, this is getting like ridiculous. I am not finding anything, because these are the smartest guys on Wall Street, the smartest guys in an industry with a 90% failure rate. As a scientist, this is confusing.
But they got paid.
And well, look, what's that?
But they got paid.
Oh yeah, I did find out none of them gave the money back on the failure of their operation.